Hello, everyone out there. This is Tommy Valentine, Executive Director for Historic Athens. We want to thank you so much for tuning in with us today for our 1 o'clock episode of This Moment in History, COVID-19 in Athens, Georgia. This is episode 52 of a planned 55 episode series wrapping up this week. 11 weeks ago, we started down this journey, and our goal was to document and explore this unique, often difficult moment in Athens history by talking to some of our community's leaders. Today, we had already previously been scheduled to speak to one of those leaders, Commissioner Allison Wright, but Commissioner Wright very kindly worked with us and with Commissioner Evita Thornton, who was supposed to talk to us in a previous episode, but we had to reschedule so that we could talk to both of those critical community leaders today to document their experiences and their thoughts on what we've faced here in this community. A quick note, if this is your first episode, we want you to know this is not just a show that you can watch. This is also something you can participate in. So if you have a question or a comment for one of the commissioners, maybe words of encouragement or a thought, you can share it in the comments below this live video, and I have the ability to share it on screen and include it as part of today's dialogue and historic record. All 55 episodes of this series, including the one that you can participate in today, will eventually be packaged as a digital archive and contributed to our local libraries and research institutions to ensure that future generations can look back, get a sense of who was leading Athens at this moment in 2020, but also how this particular crisis was handled. As a last note, before we begin this broadcast, each week of this series has been brought to you by a different local sponsor who financially supported our ability to do this work. This week is no different. We really appreciate Bertus and Catherine Downs for their financial support so that we could have these conversations. So thank you very much to Bertus and Catherine. We appreciate the Downs family. All right, with that said, about halfway through today's episode, we will make sure you know more about Historic Athens, and we can let you know how you can get more plugged in. Normally, we have the little Historic Athens icon up in the screen, but so that we could feature both commissioners side by side safely, we are going widescreen, and so we're going to make sure we get the whole screen here for us. But all right, I'm going to make a couple switches, and we will be joined by both of our commissioners here. So one moment. All right. All right, folks, give me just 1 second, and we'll get them on the line. Stand by. Hi, folks. I have Commissioners Thornton and Wright on the line. We are working to address a little technical difficulty. We had them connected before we went live, but that connection has been broken. As we've said on this series before, maybe by the time people watch this in 100 years, folks will have realized how to make technology seamless. But in the year 2020, that is not our experience yet. So we're working to get this figured out. Stay with us. We are determined and we will figure it out. So just stay with us and we'll be back in just a moment as we connect the commissioners. Thank you. Okay, everyone, we have both commissioners connected here. Before you get started, I know we live in an era of safety and concern, and that these commissioners have been great community voices for that safety and concern. To facilitate today's discussion, the two commissioners got together and they are broadcasting from the same porch, but at a safe distance. And so I promised them that I would share with you that just like in your rear view mirror, where it says objects in the mirror may appear to be closer or objects in the mirror may be closer than they appear. Here it's a little bit of the opposite. Our two commissioners are safe and sound, but they are squeezed onto the same screen. So just a note of that before we begin. Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and bring our commissioners on screen, and we'll begin our conversation. One moment. All right, and let me go widescreen so I can see you both. All right, Commissioners Wright and Thornton, hello. How are you?
Hello,
We're
hello.
good. We got a little weather rolling in, so that could be a nice element in the background.
Yeah, that'll make it very dramatic. Yes, I'm looking outside my window right now and I can see my wife and my daughter looking up at the sky. So I guess it's about to come down on us. So um anyway, I'm so glad that you two could join us. This is a really exciting opportunity to have you two together. I want to start where we start each episode, which is getting to know our guests and what they do. I'd like to start, I guess I'll just go left to right here. So I'll start with Commissioner Thornton. So Ovita, if you wouldn't mind, could you introduce yourself to our audience? Tell us a little bit about your background and your relationship to Athens, Georgia.
Okay, thank you, and afternoon to everybody. I am Ovita Thornton. I am originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I've been here since 1982. My husband is a thoroughbred Athenian, so I guess that gets me in the club of Athenians. I have three sons: Corey, Travis, and Kyle. Um, I'm excited. We have three grandkids, and I've been involved in local, I don't want to say politics, I'll just say yeah, politics, but local community oriented issues is really where I started from.
Mhm.
And I've served on the school board for 16 years, and this is about my year and a half on the commission. So I've been here for a while, been very involved, and I look forward to staying involved.
Absolutely. Commissioner Thornton, one follow-up question. So I know you mentioned that you don't think of yourself purely as a political leader. I know that anyone who knows you in the community knows that that's true. You serve in elected capacities, but also in non-elected capacities. Could you tell us a little bit about some of the community work you've done in your time here in Athens?
I have worked on everything from voter registration, voter education, records restriction, economic justice, livable wages issues. I've been supportive in the Hispanic community, um, very involved with You Lead indirectly. So Bethel Homes is my heart.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody who does know me, that is where my heart is really um, at. And I'm excited about the redevelopment downtown. I want to make sure those residents are involved in the process
Mm-hmm.
and not get, lost in the shuffle, because there will be some changes and that's just what happens. But we need to make sure that our residents have access to everything and anything to transition. I'm excited that Georgia Legal Services has been involved with this transition from the very beginning, trying to make sure residents know and understand their rights
Mm-hmm.
and are willing to represent them if there is something that might, you know, be of a conflict. So that's pretty much my. I'm sure I forgot.
No, that's great. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard when you've done so much. You all might be able to, by the way, hear the train going by my house. It's just a,
I
yeah,
hear
it's
it.
just
I'm glad we
part, part,
talked.
part of the fun of living in Newtown. Before we switch to Commissioner Wright for her background, Ovita, I appreciate you saying hello to your sons and bringing up your husband. Hello to Willie. Um, you I will say we talked about your non-political side. On the political side of things, though, you have a unique experience or somewhat unique experience amongst commissioners because this is not the first type of elected office you've served in locally. I think we have some overlap here today on that. You also spent some time on the school board. Is that correct?
Yes, I did 16 years on the school board. That's where I first got to know Commissioner Wright.
Mm-hmm.
So she remembers a lot more than I do when we're talking. I might have just tried to erase it out my head a little bit, but I've done 16 years. I
Mm-hmm.
think the highlights of those 16 years is that I have worked under one, two, three, four superintendents. Um, our biggest challenge was the low graduation rate back in
2006 was when I started, and we were tackling it then.
And
started tackling it strong.
And that was a biggie back then. At that time, we had a 60 something percent graduation rate of African Americans, which increased to 87%.
That's right. And it might even have been, it was overall.
And that
And
was
then it was a start of no behind. So the 8 years I overlapped with Ovita on the school board was No Child Left Behind,
Mm-hmm.
which was the beginning of data collection and analysis, which is where those numbers can be found historically type thing. But it was good for us to make the efforts and be told how to seek those numbers out and work and have those benchmarks to move up. And we did.
I tell you, she remembers much more than I do.
Well, I think it's good. It makes today's conversation even more exciting that you all have known each other and worked together in different capacities for so long. So I really look forward to getting into that. Thank you, Commissioner Thornton. I want to switch over here to Commissioner Wright here. So, Allison, can you do the same? Can you tell us a little bit about your background and your relationship to Athens, Georgia?
Yeah, I was raised in Lexington, Kentucky, another unified government, so I had experience coming in here. I left Kentucky to go to graduate school in Augusta for medical illustration, and I came to the vet school as an intern in '89. And the vet school created a full-time job for a medical illustrator that I had for 13 years. So I came here in '89 as a single young professional. And then my husband and I got married. So we were young married couple, and then the kids come along, and just the whole being able to learn everything about Athens for all those different stages that you have and everything it has to offer. And when our sons couldn't go to the neighborhood school half a mile away for pre-K, that's when I started getting involved on what the heck is here. So we were assigned to Cleveland Road, 13 miles from our home, 45-minute bus ride for the kids. And I, as an involved parent, sent a letter to the school board when they were working on reassessing. It seemed like every year they were changing school assignment strategies, again, trying to deal with the issues. And one of the biggest issues to me was the long bus ride that certain kids had. And if your parents could take you to school and pick you up, then you got to pick a certain school. That was an option in there. And they used part of my idea to begin working towards neighborhood schools. And that's when I realized that maybe I could be more helpful to the community. I can remember at Barrow Elementary in PTAs, and I thought, this school has plenty of involved parents. I want to be involved, but for the whole community. So that would have been part of what got me started running for school board in 2004. And then we started working together. The 8 years we had would have been in the middle of yours. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and then in 2012, when Alice Kinman was not going to run for commissioner again, I had already been speaking of being done with the school board. We had transitioned from an interim. The first superintendent, Ovita, talked about Holloway. Then we had Mr. Sims as interim. And then when we got Phil Lanou, I felt there was a good place for a new school board member to come on. And that's when Carl Parks did. And then I can remember my first commissioner meeting and the packet and the agenda full of information. I called up Ovita and said, you need to become a commissioner. Because we used to have to do all the homework, we felt like, and have the institutional knowledge and the research for every topic on the agenda on the school board. And you know how deep the agendas are for the mayor and commission items. It's a lot of reading, a lot of homework, but it's right there for the community and for us. But it took her a while, but I'm thrilled to have her back on the same team.
Yeah, y'all are back, partners in crime, united again.
You know too much about us, Tommy.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was going to say one of the things that I also love about you both as community figures is that sometimes you meet folks that are in politics that are pure politicians. They live very dry lives, and you both are people that love Athens. It's not uncommon to run into you at a jazz event at the Melting Point, or the Foundry, or to run into you in Hot Corner. That you're someone. Both of you are people that celebrate Athens top to bottom, which is really unique. I want to touch on something else, and that I imagine our viewers will be interested in, that you already started to explore, and Ovita, you already started to explore, which is the differences between being on the school board and being on the commission. And I know you mentioned, for example, the packet prep is part of it, but in some ways, I think you probably both have heard people act as if the school board is somehow easier than being the commission, or there's less scrutiny. But it seems to me that the opposite is true. It seems to me that the school board, you are facing intense public scrutiny at all times. Everyone is passionate about what's happening to their kids, so it feels like life and death. How have the experiences? I guess I'll go with Commissioner Thornton first. What is the difference for you in the experience you've had on the commission versus the experience you had on the school board?
It's interesting that Alice, and I don't even know if I knew that about Allison. I didn't involved because of the bus transportation
Mm.
for her kids. I don't think I knew that, but my involvement started with the advocacy for my kids
Mm.
that were struggling in school, and it really brings the lion out in the mother
Mhm.
when kids are not treated right. And my thought was then, if I'm an involved parent, if I am, trying to, what about the parents that either don't know they can advocate for their kids, or don't feel as though if the school says this is it, you don't contradict them,
Mhm.
So I think the difference for me and the commission, I didn't have I didn't have like this great like cause that I needed to be a commissioner.
Mhm.
I really didn't. And I was on the school board. I had actually tried twice to get on the school board.
Mm.
Uh, um, once once when it was appointed, once to run as a school board member,
Mhm.
but there were all these barriers.
Just one moment to our audience. I think that the screen has just lagged for 1 second, so give us just one moment to try to get that fixed for them. Folks, it could be the storm. It could be a lot of different things. We're experiencing a brief technical difficulty. We will get them figured out. Stand by for part 2. 1 second.
Hey there.
Hey, so
Do you want me to go through what we did before?
yeah, if you could, and the interview is going great. The content's great. The connection's just being fiddly with us. So yeah, if you'll just do that again, we'll get you right back on. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks. All right.
I have to send Avita back to her car. I want to go sit in my car.
No, you're doing great. This is great. Just we'll figure it out. We'll smooth it all over. So just jump on when you can. Okay, I'll be looking for you.
Just doing this trolley thing.
Hey, folks, while we're waiting for Commissioners Thornton and Wright to log back in, I'm going to go ahead and get our thank you portion out of the way. That way, when they come back, we can just focus entirely on the conversation to come for the next 30 minutes. So just very briefly, I want to make sure that we thank our annual sponsors. These are the folks that keep our lights on all year long, and we really appreciate their support. If you see a business on here that you can support with your business, maybe pick up some food from Heirloom, do something with Epting. If you're looking for design or construction work, you see some excellent names here and banking choices. Please consider these. Also, if you'd like to become a sponsor or a member, please consider visiting historicathens.com. We need every bit of support that we can. I see that we have Commissioner Wright and Commissioner Thornton back. Allison and Ovita, just wait one moment. We will plug you back in. We're just getting our thank you portion of the broadcast out of the way so that when we bring you back in, we can just focus on our conversation. Great. So everyone you see here, these are our sponsors again. Thank you very much to all of them, as well as we said, Bertus and Catherine for supporting this week. And if you want to find out more, you can visit historicathens.com. Tonight at 6 o'clock, you can tune back into this Facebook page as we present the 51st Annual Preservation Awards. The second episode is tonight, hosted by David Matheny. We'll be taking a closer look at our award winners for Tweed Recording and Maxie Neeson and Patsy Hawkins-Arnold for their publication Across the River about the history of East Athens. At 2 o'clock, when this episode ends, if you want to head over to the Facebook page for the Athens Welcome Center, they're doing cutting edge programming, welcoming you to places around Athens and offering virtual workshops, and that's free over at that page. And then last thing, and then we will bring on our excellent commissioners here. And that is, if you're looking for a quick and easy way to support Historic Athens today, you can just visit historicathens.com to pick up a locally designed and printed Historic Athens shirt. We have one for Boulevard, Rock Springs Historic District, and Landmarks of Athens. So we'd love to have you show your support that way. Okay, so with that said, we are going to go ahead and bring the commissioners back on screen now that they're reconnected and continue our discussion. One moment. All right. And here we are. Okay, great. Commissioners, thank you so much for joining again. I really appreciate it. So when we last left off, Ovita was explaining her thoughts on some of the differences between school board and commission. Allison, do you mind helping wrap up that thread for us?
Well, I can remember it distinctly when I would walk with my buddy Alice Kinman, who was a commissioner. She started on the commission when I started on the school board. We were recruited by some neighborhood parents to get involved, and it did involve beer at Mean Bean and 5 Points when we talked into it, I must admit. So anyway, we'd take our kids to school, then we would walk, and I would share with her things about the school board. She would share with me stuff about the commission, or she'd have to walk by something that she had to look at, a mailbox that somebody's complaining about. And I remember thinking, at least on the school board, we can dial it back to what's best for the students. What's best for the students, and then what's for the teachers, what's best for the family, and that kind of stuff. And I couldn't even imagine having to bounce around between a neighbor hating another neighbor's mailbox to backyard chickens. Remember backyard chickens? That was a thing. And look what we're dealing with now. But anyway, 8 years on the school board and being ready and learning from that, the budgeting process, prioritizing, and then coming on the commission again with the packets to help for the monthly meetings and the committee work. The committee work is very time consuming for a commission, less so with the school board, unless except for the superintendent searches, those are always intense. And then the difference being that the board hires the attorney and the superintendent, and that's it, right? And then the commission is in charge of hiring the county manager, the county auditor, judge, municipal judge, and then attorney and the clerk. Yeah. So those are structurally and sort of chain of command differences there.
Yeah. Well, and that's the.
I think.
Sorry, go ahead, Ovita.
And I think the other big difference with the commission, which, like, I'm like totally blown away, is the charter. Mm-hmm. The charter directs the commission where not have that type of document that guided us. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it was GSBA training, but we did not have like a Bible, like the charter that dictates certain things.
That's the Georgia School Board Association. And we had our times. We had to have mediation. We had a retreat. We had headlines on the school board, similar to the wave of things happening now. And they were related to micromanaging, superintendent, school board conflicts. And we got professionals from the Georgia School Board Association, I believe, professional organization, to come in and have us do personality skill evaluation so that we as a team, everybody gets elected by the community to work together. Mm-hmm. So we, whether you're on the school board or a commissioner and mayor and commission, people have voted you in to get along together.
Right.
And make decisions for the best for the community. So that's the same.
Yeah.
There.
Well, so let me jump in and just say, these are two different bodies, and I really appreciate the deep dive. I think for those of us just out in the public, it's fascinating to watch. I know that my very first time speaking at a podium in a public setting was when I was sophomore class president at Cedar Shoals, going to speak at a school board meeting, and I know that the energy and the pressure and the uniqueness of both settings really help define not only how those bodies work, but how Athens works. And so, we appreciate that both of you have served our community in both of those ways. I want to turn to COVID-19. So COVID-19 has had an effect on how every single person in Athens, Georgia, and around the country and around the world has done their business. But for the commission, those challenges have been especially distinct because not only are you, Ovita and Allison, as human beings trying to decide what to do with all of this, but you also had to make decisions about what Athens should do about this. And so before I went Ovita and then Allison, this time I'll go Allison and then Ovita. Allison, can you talk about those early days of COVID-19 as a commissioner? What was that like?
Yes, I can, and I'm glad, and I hope that as this moves forward, the date of this meeting being June 23rd, 2020 can correlate back to when this happened. What I remember, again, remember I was raised in Kentucky, so following basketball, so it was, I think the reality of it all really hit was it was Friday the 13th in March when the SEC basketball tournament in Nashville was canceled.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, they said, we're going to have players and family, but no audience. And I remember thinking, are you kidding me? You're going to make these athletes have physical impact, but that didn't last long. And the NCAA and the SEC, they moved swiftly to ending the whole March Madness tradition that we all know and some of us were raised on. So they moved really swiftly to protect the student athlete. So that moved us to a weekend of St. Patty's Day, Savannah being canceled, and we were having a festival. We pulled the special events permit, or staff did, thinking back then that hand sanitizer would be enough.
Right.
And we're like, no. So then that next Monday, special called meeting, and it was remotely. I couldn't get dialed into it. I could hear it. And we were working on making sure that Tuesday's day didn't become the germ spreading thing. There was talk of curfew. I don't even know if we knew the term shelter in place at that point, but it was really hard to wrap around, wanting to do something to protect the community and people who would have been just coming here. And I think we moved. It was to get it all wrapped around us being health experts for the community. We did a good thing that closed the bars, and then we heard the issues without us having any financial support could possibly be coming in, but we still had to go with public safety and protection. And then by that next Thursday was when we had health professionals, public health department come in and give us a educated version. And by then we were catching on quite a bit more. And so I would say it would be that second week when we did the shelter in place, the Thursday after St. Patty's Day, the things started happening so fast, and us wanting to make sure we were doing everything we could to protect the community. That's how I remember it.
That's great. Thank you. Ovita, how do you remember those first days of COVID? How did that affect you?
First of all, I'm like, nothing can be that bad. I'm
Right.
like, I do not believe this. I am like, it's like the flu. It's like a cold. It's
Right.
matter of fact, Russell Edwards was so passionate one night, and I'm like, yeah, right. I'm still like, yeah, right. This is not that big of it. But he was so passionate, he scared the hell out of me. I'm like, he was like, please help me, with this. I'm like, okay, this is serious.
That was at Monday meeting.
Yeah,
that was at Monday
yeah.
meeting.
I'm like, this is real. I don't think I got it until that night.
Mm-hmm.
And then right after that, that's when information starts coming in, just flowing in about cases, not just in around the country, but cases in Georgia,
Right.
cases in Athens. We were not getting regular updates. We were not getting accurate information. One of my contacts was sending me information because she's in the medical background that we were not getting as a commission at first. So I think what seemed to be like no big deal became a real big deal.
Right.
And I am so glad that Athens was the first, one of the first cities that put in a shelter in place. I can't imagine now, after that first night when we talked about it, I can't imagine now how things would be if we didn't make that step. So
yeah,
my thought is, I don't know. I know COVID is not going to send us an email saying it's getting ready to leave,
Right.
So my concern still is just as big as it was when I realized it was big.
Yeah.
Right.
And this also goes back to a little bit about what we talked about. There's no agenda packet here.
Right.
There's no rule book. So
Right.
we had different people doing different studies, different searches, different ways of getting information. And I think that our unified government did a great job getting what they could on the website. I don't use our website nearly as much as I should before this, but I use it a lot more now, referring to it for alerts and updates. And that was us trying to connect the community with what's going on, but that's not the lack of band and internet service and
Right.
The equipment for people. So the messaging teamed up with the school district's lunch outreach once it had stopped, and they were still doing what they were doing, food into the community for the students. So we started improving communications, wanting to make sure that we're doing to get out in the community and connect people with resources and services, that we continue that creative problem solving, even as we work through this, because we don't know where the end is.
And the other thing that came out of this, in regular, matter of fact, I was supposed to be on a meeting today, but I'm here, but I was regularly meeting with the neighborhood health center, Mercy Clinic, and the nurses clinic about this whole COVID thing. Allison and Melissa were working with the Department of Health. Then we talked about Advantage, the mental health issue that is indirectly connected. And here we had Jerry Neesmith,
right,
who was Advantage. But we were talking one day and we weren't even intersecting. I'm talking to this group of health professionals. Allison is with this group. So we right? I guess we
I,
asked to get a, well,
yeah, I sent Kelly a message. I said, with the committees we're assigned to have that extra information liaisoning as a
Yeah.
commissioner, we should be coming together on that. And that still hasn't been put together. I think it's also because of how many other things, because, we started this off with COVID in the beginning of March, April, by Memorial Day. I mean, we've got other things happening in the nation and the community on top of the
Right.
pandemic. So there's a lot to keep up with.
Right. Well, and that's,
and
the thing that we've touched on in this interview that I imagine hopefully the public understands, but if not, I hope our viewers can hear, is as a commissioner, you're responsible for being an expert in so many different things that it would take a lifetime to become an expert in any one. So you have to understand solid waste and zoning and and now pandemics and policing and everything else at once. That's very daunting. Despite that, though, the Athens Mayor and Commission, and I know this for a fact because I've been interviewing all our community's leaders and asking them how they feel Athens has done. Overwhelmingly, the Mayor and Commission has earned a lot of praise for how they have handled a very tough situation, especially compared to other municipalities around the country. I have two questions to bridge off that. The first is this. Both of you, as I mentioned earlier, are not only commissioners, but you're also your people. And I think a lot of times people forget that. It's easy to think of commissioners kind of the way we used to think of teachers when we were kids. You'd be surprised when you'd see them out at the grocery store. You thought they just kind of lived at the school. You two are both people. You have real feelings, real stresses, families to attend to. Um, Personally, just speaking to Ovita personally and Allison personally, how did you personally grapple with this moment? How did you handle with the pressure and the stress and everything that's been unfolding since March? Ovita, do you want to start?
I don't know if I handled it well in my privacy. In public, like, I'm bold, but this COVID situation does not give you a break because you got other personal family things going on.
Right.
My son was sick last week in the hospital for 3 days. He's better now. He's out the hospital. I just was telling Allison, one of my nephews passed away yesterday.
Sorry to hear that.
So all of that still goes on. It's not like things stop because you have a pandemic. But what I try to do is, I'm just a person of faith anyway. And my faith is so good, I just ask God, what the heck are you doing? This is not, you are putting too much on me, and I don't have no, and I get through it. But the main thing is I never want anybody to freak out because I'm freaking out. That's how I look at things, as a domino effect. I always feel like when I go out and when I speak, I can't let people sense the fears I may be having, or the personal stuff. It's not that I think I'm a fake or anything, but we all give off vibes to other people, and I don't want to give a bad vibe to folk, and then they go bizarre, So it is important for me. If things get too bad, I just shut down. I go in my room, go to bed, and I am not going to contribute to craziness if I can help it. But it doesn't mean that I'm not dealing with craziness.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for that candid answer. That is
She just helped me. I was thinking I wasn't going to be able to answer this question.
No. I think
I was
that
like, going, I think I'm going to tear up. I said, Jerry died. I don't think I can talk about any of this.
Oh my God.
But I mean, to add on to it, to put a re-election and a campaign in the middle of a pandemic, when you're fighting to keep work for the community, and you meet an opponent that you were like, I don't want that person to be my new commissioner. I got to do this. And the camera time and the video time. Once I got elected, the commission.
Okay, folks, we're gonna stick with this. We have about 10 more minutes of this episode. I know we're experiencing some technical difficulties over there with the connection, but don't give up. Stick with us. We're gonna get Allison and Ovita tagged back in so that we can do some wrap up. Also, if you'll stick around, we are going to just ask Allison and Ovita to say a few words in remembrance of departed County Commissioner Jerry Neesmith. So do stick with us. Give us just one moment while I reconnect them, and we will get this show wrapped up. So stick with us. Thank you. All right, looks like we've got the feedback. Here we are.
Okay.
All right,
She'll be
great.
back in a second. Yeah.
That's okay. So when we last lost connection with you, Allison, you were just saying about how these things don't happen in a vacuum. I know in a moment I'm going to just see if y'all want to say a few words on the legacy of Jerry Neesmith, but I know you mentioned it. I mean, the hits have just kept coming. There's been serious subject after another. Yeah.
And so you have to take care of yourself. You have to get coaching, counseling, whatever you need. I think for Ovita and I, with as much as we have done in our lives, our experiences, we've already have our own ways of dealing with it. But if it means that camera off, if it means shut down, if it means don't call me, I don't live on Facebook. I'm a face-to-face person, Tommy, just like you were saying. You see Ovita and I out and about. The treasures of our community, some of the historical things that are my favorite are the traditional festivals. Last week should have been Hot Corner. This weekend should be Athfest. And those are all things that make our community united. And we don't have any of those. And so we're left, I feel a lot of people are left on social media, which is not a substitute. And, but it's not a substitute for face-to-face. And so I do miss the out and about, the people that I knew by association, but not enough to dial up. I wonder how they're doing. I wonder who the people are that we lost to COVID-19. We have numbers, but it's not like a terrorist attack where we learn, or different incidences where we then learn who that was.
Right.
And that's kind of interesting to me and tragic at the same time. We're both old enough. I've got asthma. I don't need to be out. Even for that, I like that safe distancing thing for my health and safety. And that's, I think, another reason why us doing what we can for the community to know how serious it was. Last voting meeting, we voted a resolution that describes the importance of the face mask. concept again, so that we can start opening up, but be safe for the workers who are waiting on the tables and different stuff. So,
well, I want to, I see we have a comment here. We've had some supportive comments. I know Alex Sams, when we were experiencing some technical difficulties, said to keep trying. Ovita and Allison are worth the wait. And so I appreciate Alex saying that. Victoria, who was our guest yesterday, said, huge thanks to you both and all the commissioners for your leadership during this time. I so appreciate the hard work you're doing. I know that's a sentiment a lot of us feel. And so, we need to wrap up with the same 3 questions we ask all our guests, but on Victoria's note about appreciation and leadership. And as I mentioned, there was a second part I wanted to ask about Commissioner Praise, which is, of all of the unfair blows and difficulties that this community has faced since March, one of the toughest has been losing from this community Commissioner Jerry Neesmith. Friday night, as part of our 51st annual awards, we will be our board president, President Kevin Bates, will be presenting his family with our annual President's Award in recognition of his splost leadership on Beach Haven and the Welcome Center, and his long history of community advocacy. And that's setting aside, of course, all the personal relationships so many of us had with him. I know that you both are probably sore and heartbroken and tired of having to just revisit this pain again and again, but this is part of a historic record. And I thought, while I have you here, it's appropriate to ask if there's anything you'd like to say just about the legacy of Jerry Neesmith.
wow. Well, Avita and I both spoke at his memorial last Thursday, and I really prepared a long time for that, to be able to do it. I don't know. I'm thankful that his family gave us an opportunity, and we had an opportunity at Bishop Park where he worked so hard to get the farmers market so we could safely be together and get some semblance of order and seeing each other as we suffer and deal with it.
Yeah.
Ovita?
Tell you, it is true, you never miss your water until the well runs dry. I mean, Jerry would just get on my nerves sometimes. just get on my nerve. I mean, I would snap before I knew I had snapped, but he, on 2 different occasions, I know he came and he apologized. Ovita, I didn't realize, or I didn't, and for somebody to say they're
right
in what could have been like, oh, I'm mad at you forever, situation.
Right.
I didn't even realize how important that was, but we never skipped a beat. We never, ever skipped a beat. I'm going to miss those, after those late commission meetings, going to the Globe,
right,
eating and chit-chatting, making sure we don't have a quorum so it doesn't look like we have we got like camp now. Do we have enough? Wait a minute, it's not that many. You got to sit on that side. I'm going to miss that. I'm going to take a much more intense look at Advantage, because I know that was also his heart.
Right.
And I honestly, when I spoke last Thursday, I had nothing.
Right.
And when I was in bed, it looked like that old song by Salt and Pepper, What a Man, What a Man. It just came to me. And I brought the band with me, which was my husband. And we performed What a Man, What a Man, and What a Mighty Good Man. And that, to me, it was like, it was special.
It was helpful. It was helpful.
It really was. And to see the family dancing and for that moment.
Yeah.
But Jerry was a special man. I really mean that with all my heart, not just because he's gone.
Well, thank you for saying that. Yeah.
He was my commission husband.
That's right. Yeah, you got a work husband. You got a.
So he and I, we say we went through Rush because he and I were the only commission seats. We were going for the open 2 commission seats in 2012.
Yeah.
We called that Rush. We called our first term together our undergraduate degree, our second term together master's degree, and then we both won our election to go on for our PhD in it. And I miss him already, for sure.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. I know that's a personal thing to ask. All right, I'm going to transition to our final questions. Let me throw up some encouragement to help give us a cleanser here from that emotional question. Alex Sams just contributed one other comment that I thought you'd want to see. Alex said, I appreciate how both Ovita and Allison listen and think. It's not always about the what, but often more about the how. How do we get where we need to go? These two get it. So thank you, Alex, for that encouragement for Ovita and Allison. Allison, is there something you want to say
I just want to say that right now it's about our roll carts being emptied if you hit the truck. Right now
we got trains and trucks. All right, so our last questions, and they're fairly quick. I don't want to take up too much of your valuable time. But the first of the last questions is asks you to imagine a scenario. So if you woke up tomorrow, social distancing was over, somehow this was all over. Let's say you had the day off. And I know, so many of our fabulous businesses have innovated with curbside and everything else, but let's say that wasn't necessary. You can go right into the restaurant or the bar. I'm curious how you would spend your day. So which one of you would like to give that answer first, how you'd spend a day in a COVID-free Athens?
I would like something where all my family was together, just whatever that is. And we still are together, like Sunday for Father's Day, but not having that kind of caution light blinking off and on.
Yeah.
I just would love for my son in Vegas, Corey, Travis, our grandkid. I just would love to do that without having to think, oh, I got to go get a COVID test, tomorrow, Yeah. So, I just would love, I have missed my family like crazy. Since with the commission stuff, the COVID stuff, I really have missed my family like crazy.
Yeah, thank you. That's a beautiful answer, Allison.
Both of my sons, who will be twins, they'll be 23 in the fall, are here in Athens. So I'm a little bit different than Ovita because Father's Day we were all able to get together. Mm-hmm. But so I guess I miss my out and about Athens. If you had the magic wand, Tommy, that everything is all clear, let's go back. Or maybe I should say what I would have liked to have done the day before we got shut down. But it would be seeing we call it the usual suspects. We meet at the Globe for happy hour a lot.
Yep.
We would, there'd be a lot of eating and drinking. I'd hit Ted's, I'd hit Sea Bears, happy hour after 10, no work. It'd have absolutely nothing. Emails and social media would disappear on that day. And I would just go out, the Royal Peasant. I'd probably just hit all the places that I would go all in one day.
Yeah, I could really go for some Globe chips right now. So that's a Globe burger.
Draft beer? Somebody pouring a draft beer?
Yeah. Pouring the beer for you. Yeah.
Luckily, we have the good, we've got our Classic City Lager and our Trop and our Terrapins and our other favorite brews that we can get. But the whole camaraderie and the face-to-face and the people that work at all the places, that's what I would do.
Very good. Thank you. Second to last question here. Part of what Historic Athens does is historic preservation. And we've been thinking a lot about the fact that when we come out of this, we're not only coming out of a pandemic, we're coming out of likely a recession. And after a recession, you can have really pent up development pressure that kind of bursts across the scene all at once. It's made us think a little bit about past times in Athens history like that and how important it is we think of historic spaces when that happens. Allison, Ovita, if someone's watching this interview 50 years from now at the UGA library and they leave and they go exploring Athens for the day, what are some historic places you love in Athens that you hope we've preserved so that they can still enjoy? Does anything come to mind?
I'm gonna tell you about an experience that I had Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I go through City Hall like every time we have a meeting, every time I need to see Jean. I did not even know, and I've always bypassed it. It's been here since I've been here. I never knew the history of the cannon.
Mm.
The double barrel
I
cannon.
never knew the history of the cannon. And Ron Carson explained it to me, and I'm like, oh, because we were taking some photos, like
Right.
and then it got so interesting. I called Russell. I'm like, what about this cannon?
Yeah.
I think I know we'll get into the Confederate thing and all of that. I totally get it.
Yeah.
But to me, no matter what, those are part of our history, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
But to know that somebody created a cannon that doesn't work or never did work.
Right.
And we have a statue. I mean, it's there and it never worked. It's amazing to me. It really made me want to go look at some more historic stuff.
Yeah.
That I have not paid attention to. That is the culture and history of Athens, and I think we just take that kind of stuff for granted. I mean, somebody's reading about it in a textbook somewhere, and this is history, and we're here right next to it. So
Right.
Cannon is my historic spot for now.
All right. That's great. Thank you, Evita.
Well, I do like, and since a lot of the stuff during the pandemic is outdoor things,
Yeah.
walking, the trails, and the different things like that, like you mentioned, Tallahassee Forest and Beach Haven,
Mm-hmm.
and those things. Hopefully, they'll still be there for that part.
Right.
But because of the pandemic, I hope that people are able to still do the things that are our current history too. The Twilight Festival, the Athfest Festival, the Hot Corner Festival,
Mm-hmm.
where those are the traditions that we have right now and miss, and
Right.
certainly hope that there's a form and a version of that. So I guess, Tommy, it's some of that brick and mortar, but for me, it's right now I'm really missing that camaraderie.
That's right. Yeah. Let's hope that 50 years from now, that person can go outside and go to the, at that point, very historic Athfest, very historic Hot Corner Festival, Athens Human Rights Festival, all the outdoor events. I still have fingers crossed, not only for our Porch Fest event this fall, but also for Wild Rumpus and all these other things that Athens loves. Ovita, I wanted to tell you, Ginger Red Wine shared the laughing until you cry emoji when you were talking about the double barrel cannon. So so that's great. All right. So our closing question of the afternoon is this. We talked about a young student 50 years from now. Let's flash forward even farther, 100 years from now. If somebody's watching this interview, Ovita and Allison, 100 years from now, what do you want them to know about Athens in this moment? June 23rd, 2020. What would you like them to know? Who would either one of you are welcome to start.
I'll go ahead and just say, and I guess it's probably reminiscent of my being on the reelection campaign trail, is that to me, one of the responsibilities we have as elected officials is the public health, safety, and well-being of the community. And I think when you touched on the mother bear, when you look at the work that we've done in this community and we want to do what's right for that health, safety, and well-being for everybody that's here, whether they're visiting for school, visiting for a festival, lifelong, multi-generation, that we are doing what we believe is safest for everybody in health, well-being, and safety.
Very
That's
good.
what I think.
Thank you, Allison. Commissioner Thornton?
I would like 100 years for people to realize that Athens is Athens strong. In this time of the pandemic, systemic racism issues, poverty issues, that out of all of that, Athens, I believe, is still going to rise up. I really believe that. I may not rise up with it. I may just pass out along the way, but I believe it's going to rise up because I do believe there are so many good people here, and they will come out when Athens is really under. I don't think that. I think all of this stuff makes all of us. I'm sorry, y'all. I think all of this makes us stronger, even though we're feeling real weak right now. But if these things were not happening and it just wiped us out,
right,
we wouldn't have anything to build on.
right.
We're starting to see the things that need to be fixed, things that some of us have ignored forever. Whoever, people are serious about washing their hands. You should have been washing your hands all along. Who has to tell you to wash your hands, So I think the things that we've taken for granted is real, and people's lives are going to be better. People are I saw neighbors on my street. I don't know where they came from, but they're walking, they're walking. I'm saying hi to folk. So I think out of bad, something good is going to happen. And I think it's going to be Athens strong.
Very good. Athens strong. Well, thanks to both of you for all your hard work and making time for us today. Thank you. Thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tommy, for getting
Thank
us
you.
rebooted.
That's okay. You two, if you'll stick with us, we're just going to log off. To the rest of our audience, we'll be back tonight with a 6 o'clock episode on Tweed and the history of East Athens. And then we'll be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock for our next episode. Thank you to everyone. Be safe. As Commissioner Thornton said, wash your hands. Get out there and wash your hands. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Thanks. Stay safe. Thanks a lot.